I still think there's hope here in the end. And I know you think nobody cares, but I do. It's the same things that we wanna believe, and you know you gotta get it back somehow. Don't you think it's time you find it's crazy, but we've gotta move past this. I don't remember making promises, but I can keep a promise like this. Don't be scared now, I know it's cold, but I have been here before. I know how this might seem, but it will get better, yeah. Don't try to fight, we both know that what's here inside is right. I know you think nobody cares, but I do, and I have all along. But you know you gotta get it back somehow. Don't you think it's time you find it's crazy, but we've gotta move past this. I don't remember making promises like this, but I can keep a promise. It's crazy, the life we lead, but this is how it always will be when no one's there. I swore I will, you know I will. But don't you think it's time you find out? I know you think nobody cares, but I do.
Good morning, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Having a bit of allergies already. So I need to get things sorted out. Alright, so I think we decided on tiling being useful, particularly because of the tutorials. The extent to which keyframes would be useful is more of a logged version thing. One thing I've been debating is whether it's actually worth the trouble to do this sort of object LODs, levels of detail. Yeah. Still not sure if it wants to sneeze. Okay, that's a detail. So if I don't do differentiated data at the object level, then I don't need to bring in the object sizes. The oversample will be small enough, it's not a big deal. Whereas at these sizes, So that's the level that we're tiling at, which is a bit of stuff, but not a lot of stuff. So when we did a full image, no, this is a big one, but oop. Okay. So that one was 32 megabytes. If we take one of these with all of its levels, well, on disk. Wait, really? Or no, 13. So that's a lot more data overall. Admittedly, you won't need to actually fetch a lot of the lower level stuff unless you're literally looking at everything. So actually do cut some detail out there. Yep. So it's more data in total. And this is the full detail layer. The size on disk is larger because of all the overhead for small files. But we're actually... How is your size smaller? I thought I had run this where it ultimately includes everything. Maybe this didn't include the over... It's a lot more efficient at a file level. Well, okay, so a lot of the inefficiency is... no, this was that one. It's all the small files. So doing the detail levels maybe doubles. I guess I'm almost more concerned about constantly fetching files here. So you're 24, a couple kilobytes. Maybe we want to optimize for something around image size. Wait, that's one. There's the bulk of our images. Well, of course, we're including more detail at every level. So those images are around 7 to 8. If we actually got into image stuff, Oh, well, those are 30 kilobytes. Okay. So for comparable detail, we actually do have some room there. Well, I think some of them were like 100 kilobyte. So 28. So that's probably too much of a split. 4 kilobyte with only the visible objects. And there's one that's got 12. So we would expect these to be up to 4 times that. And there's 20. So that's 25. Leaving out some of the smaller objects. So if I did do levels of detail, it looks like we might only get like 2. Or like that, plus if we cut it off at 26, maybe these files would be a lot bigger, because they would include all the objects. And then we'd want to do size cutoff at the rendering stage. So the main reason we do the levels of detail here is so that we can just remove objects and not have to transfer them. We're actually not that far off of what a screenshot would be size-wise. So I might just save myself a whole lot of trouble by not doing that. And then it's less important to not do that, which would remove the dependency of size on that entire process. And a bunch of complicated logic from this. So as long as we're checked in, we can always go back to source control. Can I actually just revert that? Actually, this will probably work. ID, JSON, object master, minimum size, number of excluded objects. Oh, there was a bug fix in here that we would need to reproduce if we were going to simply revert that. Did I need cell size before? I did not. Percentage track floors. Where is... Right. So that still wants to move up. All the various object testing. I abstracted over the object to write. which I might still want when I get to floor updates. Okay, so that was the change there. I think this all goes away though. And then we keep this stuff because we actually need to do that. And where did tile come in? Oh, from the overages. So that's not quite my old 24 because I've got these over the edge issues. So this is actually not going to be good data. Maybe we keep this around for historical interest. And making that a constant is fine. And we'll need corresponding changes on the other end to understand what the available zoom levels are. And having the code to deal with that probably, on that end, probably isn't a terrible thing. It doesn't change much. This code had a lot of complexity dealing with sizes and stuff. Let's do limited size test first. Oh, and this probably, because I have to mirror on all edges, probably did increase the size a bit. Oh! I increased the size a lot. No, this is the small one. That was like 13 megabytes versus that. All right. There were no errors. And what got expensive was actually producing the lower levels and running out all the files in the other one. So this shouldn't be too bad. All right, so grab that. Go over here. It says all the levels of detail in it. Apparently I can't just move the folder. Maybe I should have renamed the folder so I could put the new stuff in. in the front end. No, other one. Also, that is only for data LODs. So we have the animated view. This becomes more of a rendering concern. It becomes that. And sprite layer currently has a hard-coded data min-max. Which should probably be like an option type thing. So the way they tend to do their properties, well, no, their zoom offset. But I think max zoom and min zoom were all in that style. All right, so that was data min zoom. That looks heavily lauded. But like, I don't even have that code anymore. It's only 24. That's today. 139. Okay, so full detail. And maybe I could still get a list of like super small objects to exclude, but so full detail at this size does make for some slightly larger files. So what the heck is going on? There's all the objects. So it's saying it's cached. I don't know what it's... Oop, object. -1, -1. Oh, it must have all been a run of those, then a run of these. $2400. Response headers. Doesn't say anything about file size. But I'm guessing it's more than 500 lines. A bit. Actually did cut it a lot. Alright, let's try restarting the server to see if it will wake the heck up. Okay, maybe I need to restart my browser. And this kind of stuff is why I've been reluctant to ship an early version in case I need to change the data. Oh, I might want to change... No. Is there... Welp! I guess for now we have to brute force it. That's more like it. Yeah, they're being way over conservative with the cacheability of that stuff. Okay, that's actually reasonable. Because it's also more objects to load. Right now we do load the images no matter what. So I could stop rendering objects that look like they're going to be too small. I might be able to determine what to preload on the same account. Oh, I wonder if something... Well, no, because I restarted the server. Got bound to the old recycling bin objects. So here is a little test. We had a couple generations of this data that we deleted probably the past couple days. But well, what was... Yeah, and we're also loading lots of objects. Last modified... Well, there's no negative cache control statements that say this is not a cacheable response. So that might be kind of a flaw in Reactor. It's like, oh, it's just a text file. It will just cache that forever. Never mind the fact that it's got a brand new timestamp. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was because that one was actually... Nope. Response header. Is this from the browser cache? Which is assuming it's cacheable because it doesn't say anything different? Now the weird thing is that, like, I've been doing data updates on these. Routinely. I guess in this case, did a replacement of the directory structure instead of overwriting the file. But all the timestamps should have been updated. So I guess we're back to hacking things for a little while. Well, I changed the names without properly updating things. There's always the debug disable cache, but then you have what happens when you're not in debug mode. And it's like, I wouldn't mind caching images. So what I actually need to do is clear the cache. Not disable the cache. I just need to clear it once. Cached web content. Okay, so that load. That was the advantage of loading out some of the objects, I think. Not so much the data itself as what it implies that we do with it. But that's kind of a separate step. Or that's the client-side optimization. Okay. So we reset the reactor. I think we're going to stick with that. Maybe we need to do some experimentation on the other side. Notes. So rendering, that's still an open question. Size cutoff and all right, now on rendering side, we have to have, well, we have the object bounds when we draw. Are we going to have them when we fetch data? Which would put us back to needing all the bounds because it's object size. Oh, and this is where I probably want to look at least. I kind of did before. Missed. We've not checked this out. So we were doing just a size there. And it was one, so cell size, factor of that, and we're picking a min size there. And this is going to be, we could do this at a pure rendering layer. But for any given rendering layer, we only need to do that once. This is final image. The other thing deals with compressing it out, so we don't have some of that messiness. Filtering by placement location. Now you see, we can't do this as one return if I want to look up a convenience bounds object. So this would turn into I mean, I guess we still have all of these conditions. But maybe we break it down a little bit for convenience. Or make it just, I guess they're useful as labeling. Well, in frame maybe. To use of bounds. This could also do some pre-filtering of the large objects, but that's kind of fine detail. So we want to know we can pre-calculate min size. So we've got a cell size. And maybe on this side, since we're not really changing data, it could be a little bit more liberal, but we'll see about that. So we had pre-calculated the object size of each object. We could do the very, very simple version of this. Well, or we do a parallel array of object sizes so it's got a better name. Well, I think I drank too much water, so I'm going to take a short break and be back in a few minutes. Yep. Ah! Well, I can at least try to get near to the truck, or actually I could even try to get near to home base from this height. See, Nate, you got to make that body retrieval easy. You just put it right along the path, pick it up on your way back to the truck.
Alright. Oh, boom, 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 boom. Got the first touch to end the match there. Ooh, and I get MVP. Very nice. Whoosh. Take off. There it goes. I like that MVP award. There it is. I had all 3 goals. The hat trick was on me. I carried that game.
I don't know. You'll have to. Okay, so we want educated people, but I'm not seeing. Okay. Let's look at all. Show me all. Is this no filtering? Okay, so there we go. And I want to see my educated school, display all, university. No, I want to see educated school.
Alright, welcome back. So we've got that. So either we extend the array or we do like object size. Which does mean that we want to pull this out. So we have that for you, we have that for you. We have object size. Is there a built-in min in JavaScript? There's math.min. Puts that in an array. Yep. Oh, and there's no typo. We can use this here. So you can filter out. So this is just going to be object size placement ID, which actually would have made this easier to slip into the old return. And we were saying if we didn't have a size for it, which is kind of why I did that. And this is our final thing, although in keeping with this style. Well, this would be if too small. So it's kind of a inversion of that condition, or that paradigm. Because those are checking for valid conditions, this is sort of a invalid condition. And everything is too small. Or we don't have this data at the time we process this, which is a thing I would kind of overlooked before. Well, this is going to be for each placement. Did I get a min size? Yes. Okay, some of them didn't, some of them did. So we have to not add a sprite layer, which comes down to this. Wait, oops. Oh, I never fully did this. So that's a little bit of double work. But these would never really get added. So this is going to rather complicate the order of operations. I guess I could wait until that data was uploaded or downloaded before activating the map. Oh. Why does this need the map? Object layer. We only had one object layer at the time. It may have been specifically so that we could add those deferred layers. Yeah. That's just always happening at present. So what if instead now complication. We set this up so we could do two things. But I'm going to have to, I guess, is it premise.all them? And then just leave this out for now. Привет, Alex Wolf. How you been? It's allergy season. Okay, so the map is there. But there may have been no one to answer when the data messages came in. Yeah, we can't really delay setting up our command response. So either I have to delay the messages individually, or we have to specifically delay this set of things. Or I need to capture the object data promise. So I can specifically wait for that. When I am doing an arc layer. Well, the real issue here is when this gets added to the map. If we don't do that, I don't think it creates any tiles. So, how do we trigger that condition? Another way to do this would be to actually fetch the object data on the other side where we're also fetching arcs. Maybe not parse it. And then we can make sending arcs conditional on sending objects. It's kind of a shame to have to wait on everything. Would this count as a kind of extra data that this needs? So if it has no data, it would include everything. Although we'd kind of have to like recreate these, which would probably cause some churn. I guess this is where the pre-processing was handy. How do I have you wait on two things? So right now I don't store ARC data anywhere, I don't think. Yeah. So we need to have that check for the presence of all the stuff. This might be more reasonable to parse than some of the life data. If I did it on the Elm decoder, because there is some interpretation going on here. Or, could we go through and not create the object layer initially, or at least, we have to account for both ordering of events. I would need a thing that went through and said, well, if we now have that data, Okay, so that's one way to unify it. We create the arcs, and then we go through and say, well, if we've got the data, let's do that update. So this gets moved out of here. And to some sort of other function. Where you actually do need well, you really just need to be deferred since we're kind of treating it as a global variable. So then we can't put it in here, we can't do that. And really, we've been just relying on that data so far. So this will have to go down here. This will not have you. You will have to be empty. So for arcs, and I guess I used to be using that. Your end is different though. At this point, it is MS end. Hey, Wolfenscar, how's it going? I've been, I'm a little bit worried about going into One Life this afternoon. It sounds like people are trying to kill everybody to trigger the end. So this is going to happen, should only happen once once we get the data. So we have to go into arc.layer dot, maybe like add layer. Methods, add layer. Hopefully, well, it was behind before, so hopefully the ordering will be good. All right, then you will come down here. And so we've made arcs, and then we say if object size dot length is greater than 0, we can add this stuff. Otherwise, uh-oh. Vegeta, how's it going? What are you working on today? I'm Object master? Yeah, so when this thing is done, well, we were just talking about some naughty people in 1 Hour 1 Life. Crew and I mean, I guess I don't even really need to vend this. I mean, I guess there's some logic to it. If we've added placements, we've already adjusted those layers based on time, so that's probably okay. Minus all the bugs. Oh, yep. Okay, we did not actually trigger that. Or it didn't work. All right, so the timing on got arcs. No, this is last arc. Unless it has ended in the last hour or so, we do not have that information available. And even then, I don't know if there might still be a day on it. And if I can actually get this working again, I've got objects on it. Okay, so we got the arcs. It didn't happen here. We added this. Does that not, if the layer is on the map, does that not add them to the map? Are there actually arcs at this point? And are we getting the right timestamp to... Okay, there are arcs. Are we fetching... We're trying to fetch something. 903, that sounds about right. So 903. So we're getting that right value. There's data there. I guess we're filtering. Oh, I am fairly zoomed out right now. All right, so let's remove the actual size check and see if that's the issue, because maybe I got the size wrong. Okay, well that's not just it. Maybe I messed these up. If I do these, it's going to spam like crazy. What if we took out all removals? Okay, we're fetching some objects. Okay, we've still got some problems. But one of these conditions is off. I saw that a while ago. Is this more recent? Okay, so why is this? Oh, because I took this out in the process of working on stuff. That's better. And you do see some of that stuff going in and out. Okay, we're seeing some fairly small things. I don't know. Oh, it is still making new layers. Yeah, I'm gonna need my own layer cache sometime. Because there's really only one data layer for this. Oh, yep. And this is the previous arc. I found, where was it? This bit especially interesting. Somebody was hoarding all the weapons. Oh no, the data is only published after the arc's end. Now, after I get this stuff settled, this is time-stamped placements, so in theory it will be possible to replay it. Now you won't see people. There won't be people. You won't see objects that people are carrying. You'll just see one disappear from here and one disappear over there, and you don't really know if it's the same object. But at least it will start filtering out some of that smaller stuff as you zoom up. And this is where I might want to adjust, like, maybe permanent objects need to stick more, because I mean, even just, you can kind of see a few pixels here and there on some of these things. At least tells you there's a town there. And I probably need to make like roads. Well, I think what I want to do is like a colored pixel that represents a road at that zoom level. But we need to have a table of colors for that. What's this? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, pixel. Well, a pixel on the screen is a very small square. Oh, actually, it's kind of like what the biomes have. Oh, okay. So I guess I do have the visibility controlled on this. Wait. So there used to be a bug where that layer would like reappear. Although actually this max native zoom looks messed up. There's max noom and there's max native because it never really... Yeah, okay, so that's messed up. Yeah, so something more like this. Well, I'm not sure about like all of these, but like at least for the roads and things with better colors. But yeah, that's just like the raw data layer. But yeah, that, if you got a good color at that layer, you might at least be able to see like roads and walls. Actually, I need to have that in my to-do list. So we kind of got some size cutoff going, and I might need to play with that limit. Oh, and then filtering out. Actually, I think I am already only loading objects that made that cutoff. I'm going to have to check on that. So what was I thinking about? Oh, if this affected which sprites I load, because that will help kind of first render. So that is saying, yes, tile.keyplace is this process. We go through here, we load the images. Yeah, because I mean, this gives you some structure, but this moment won't be too cut down, which really comes down to the filter we use, which I was kind of liking. Let's see, so minimum size. Seemed like at 2 I had like bowls and things showing up that I didn't want to see. Oh, and that still doesn't even get the fences. Uh, 24. And you can see stuff around town. Looks like the bodies showed up. But fences didn't. I am using the thinnest dimension on the assumption that that number of pixels will collapse down at some point. You could go with max. That's 25. We see something that's just trees. You can start to see a little bit more stuff around the town. And that's a whole bunch of stuff. And I do want to work on like rendering quality sometime, because these look pretty bad. But that is cutting off notes, and we've already done that. Or cutting off things based on rendering size. Oh, I still got a bunch of console logs in here. That was update arcs. Got arcs. Okay, so not a whole lot of extra stuff there. Okay. So there's the floor removal. It's mostly animated stuff. I seem to have maybe fixed this. I forget what it was that was. Oh, I know what that was. It's actually based on max zoom to display it at. This is no longer a yes. I could conceivably use it in the other filter, but it's not as important at that point. All right, so from an accuracy perspective, but that's going to be touching this code, so we want to checkpoint this again. However, this is back to depending on some data. So I can do some research here, but I'm also going to have to do that on the other computer. I could actually process the transition data here, but I'm currently got the bounds and all of that data combined into one file, following how OneText set it up. What is it? First of all, source. No, actually it's not source, that's the site. It's process. Now process you have to be a little bit careful of, because it's got this entire data repository in here, so we can probably go to source here. And we need to do some investigation of transitions. So wooden floor is ground only. It's not the only thing that's ground only. Other things are in object layer. Yeah, so what determines if something is going to be an actual floor? Game object. I may have to be looking at raw objects here, because this doesn't seem to be concerned with what's a floor. It doesn't have a pickup age listed. It's not blocks walking. Okay. So this is a 485. So an actual floor permanent 0. Blocks walking, no. It has an R value. Okay, so there's a floor flag that it's not currently picking up. So we are going to have to pull that out. And then we're going to have to, I'm going to need more water soon. We're going to have to do some transition stuff, and this probably doesn't have like transition IDs or anything in it. That there exists a transition from a floor object to a not floor object. That would count as a removal transition. Okay, I need more water. And in order to continue getting the bounds in, which come from the sprite processing, I'm going to have to run this on the other computer. So I'm also going to have to do some stuff to set that up. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Don't recall if I'm looking for rocky organic right now to get the habitat.
Stop session, ain't no mashing. Shit must have made an impression. I'm a pop one.
Shout at me when that's gone.
Welcome back, everybody. And remember to unmute myself. Yep.
Oh god. At least we can keep this and this powered overnight now.
We have a power shortage.
Well, you know, I wish we could. Hey. Ow! Ow! And fight's almost over. Ow! Ow! Fight's over.
You're getting our Uno cards in all of the cookie crumbs. Anybody know the top 5 ways to hide a body?
We could check out here. Zipline here. I know all these things.
I'm just joking. Joking. Totally a joke. Totally.
Run.
You're getting our Uno cards in all of the cookie crumbs.
It's go time. Oh, care package.
Anybody know the top 5 ways to hide a body?
We could check out here. Zipline here. I know all these things.
I'm just joking. Joking. Totally a joke. Totally. Not. Yeah, I'm gonna get this shoe. So yeah. So I have the weirdest cart right now. A giant Wii remote, goldfish, and a shoe. A chew shoe. That rhymes.
I'm sorry about that. I really needed to sneeze.
Testing.
Participated in doing carrot farms so far tonight, and a big part of that has been that this game's really goddamn overwhelming, and I just didn't know what I was doing. But there's a lot of... Okay.
Oh, this is nice. I'm using this. Oh, I'm using this. I
Last person
have
move away from the house.
the most sparkly baton in the history of sparkly batons. I am the ultimate alien majorette. Look at this.
Who gave you that?
Yes, I
Press
got
right
this
click.
somehow.
Right click. Right click.
Oh, that's nice. But I have a sparkly Mrs. Priz, I have sparkly. Oh my goodness. It's so sparkly. Oh, I feel like a pretty princess. Yay!
What is going on with Lost Prophet?
It's so sparkly, you guys. Oh my.
All right, so this is going to be in the way. Unfortunately, there's something went wrong with OBS picking up the webcam on the laptop, so we're going to be without that for a little bit. And did I actually close down? Oh, yeah, here we go. So step one, we need to know what a floor is. Let's see, do we have arrays for everything, or do we just check the, oh, for simple properties, it just checks stuff. Well, this is the JSON data method. This.depth is value, R value, result, return result. Result is oh, this is probably the output. Okay, so this dot data. Oh, this dot data dot floor. There's an is tool. Probably is floor would make sense. No, something like he had a test for this here. Okay, so it is as a number. And the tricky part's going to be on the transition side. Main processor. Okay, for this we're going to have to import transitions. And the export objects. I don't really need the detailed objects, or I'm going to have to get a subset of the transitions that we put out. So is this JSON data? Oh, this is probably the detailed stuff. For the individual objects. Main processor, port objects, game data, export objects, prepare static dir, objects data, sort by IDs, names, bounds. Okay, so this is just the top level thing. There must be a separate And then JSON data for each individual object. Okay. So objects data is pulling specific stuff out, which is where I added the bounds. I need to do some transition importer, import transitions. Transition importer, split categories. Merge generic transitions, merge attack transitions, add to objects. Okay, so the objects should have some transition information on them. Move transition. Result.move. Okay, so this dot transitions away dot find where move greater than 0. So that's a property of the transition, though. But we are looking at transitions away. If transition.target why is a transition a tool? Actor ID greater than 0 and it changes the... Oh, and it doesn't change when being used. So I could have this thing determine that it is a floor removal transition. New actor, auto decay. Target remains. Target ID, new target ID. Does this... Let's see, I need to know... It does keep actor ID and new target ID. Well, I mean, this dot actor ID, so we've already pulled that in some... Oh, because that's in the file name. So we've got transitions away. We know when we are a floor, or we can filter it onto floor objects. We want to determine that we transition away, we get and look up our new object new actor ID, which might be... Oh, okay, those are IDs. So we actually have actor and new target is not a floor. So is this an object data thing? So we have is floor. We've got transitions away. Which get put in by add transitions. Okay, so there's not a function here that handles that away. But it's just transitions away, map that. Transitions timed. So assuming we have transitions, we need this dot transitions away. And I guess when we use this, we're going to have to, maybe we just concat everything to get all floor removal transitions. And we want, I mean, we would only have this, but I don't have a place where I think I can run a function after we have done transitions to call this data. Well, let's just put in a quick little check here. So we are going to assume it's a floor. We want a transition dot new target is not a floor. All right, and then at our top level, is it game data? Export, that's the individual objects. Objects data. Objects.map. And that is going to be an array of arrays. Does JavaScript have a flatten? Array.prototype.flat. Not necessarily all that well supported. You want to check, can I use on that? Probably. Did I see? Yep, yeah. Looks like Lodash is in use. .concat. Additional arrays or values. That's a double array there. But the 3 gets put in, so I guess we just use an empty probably have to use an empty array. No, I'm going to pass it an array of arrays. That will look like this thing. So actually, that's not quite what we want. Just flatten arrays. Oh, but that's after we map it. All right, now can I do a run of this? Without doing the bounds. Oh, this doesn't even have a README. Processing. Okay, so you can't just do new process. And we're going to have to see what those transitions look like. I might want to cut down that format. Oh, and I might have to do transition, converting circular structure. Yeah, so we're going to have to look at transition, JSON data. And I don't even know if I need a full transition here. Actually, we've probably got previous. That's pretty. I guess the transitions must have been in the objects. Target ID, new actor ID, new target ID. Target remains. More data than I use, but there's not going to be too many of these either. So we need to game data, floor removal transitions. I guess one of these places. This is going to be really a T. Oh, wait. The transitions used to assume that you knew what object you were on. Oh, wait, though this is 30. Target ID. Okay, so we've got target ID, new target ID. Transition timed, and then hand is a different way of doing actor. Wait, wild gooseberry bush. Actually, no, it's still stakeable, but it doesn't switch back. All right, so JSON data. Oop. Yep. Oh, I did kind of remove that stuff after the last run, didn't I? Because I took out versions. If version, game data, so unprocessed version. What are we doing with you? Checking for the existence of the last released. All right, well, the easiest way is to see how bad this is as just doing extra work. Although, actually, is this pretty much done with static edge and going on to try to do current? Okay, that's still a lot of empty arrays. Oh, that's bounds, because we didn't actually do that. Floor removals. It was a 4, that's actor ID. Target ID 485, there's the wood floor. That's actually more than I expected. Oop. Oh, we rewrote the file. Target ID. There's, Floor removal with bare hand? Actually, for IDs, it's a target ID 1596 Stone Road. Okay, so there's like the two classes of picks. We've got the last use in there. That would be both the same. Okay, so 1596, 1596, 1596. This should actually count as a floor, shouldn't it? Oops. Or maybe it stays a floor? Because this is not a removal from the floor database. All right, 2677. You are not tagged as a floor. I guess because it's a transition on a floor, it stays in the floor database. So I don't know if we've had any landing strips to look at how that plays out. The feed I get might tag that as a floor change. All right. What else do we got? Pretty objects. All right, so for everything that gets dug up with a pick, we have, I guess, possibly everything that gets dug up. You've got two uses for the tool. We've got this weird case where the landing strip looks like it's an object, or not a floor. Target ID 888. Bearskin rug on stone, 2 transitions for last use and not last use. So we expect, I guess because this is a transition that involves a tool, 84, 84, 656, 485, 45. Yeah, so the two things in the tool every time. So we've also got like stone floor, wood floor with bare rug, wood floor without bare rug. All right, so now I have to rerun this with sprites so that I have all of my bounds in there. And unfortunately, this puts me back to needing to have the data file on the pre-combining end of things, because that's going to affect whether or not the floor gets removed there in the final analysis. But at least floors shouldn't be added too often. So maybe I can get away with kind of manually managing that. Is it sprites? So the thing we need to know is, and it's going to be writing this again. Target ID and new target ID. As the properties on that. So we can say if it was, well, we get consecutive events. Well, all right, so that's going to run for a little bit. Let's step back. Let that run. So the problem we've got, which I probably should have done this before, is we've got this is really going to have to be a case of I need to look up. This is the bearskins are slightly easier because you have this boards with bearskin that really only shows up here. So when we get a floor placed down, it's tagged as a floor. And actually, this is 1596 was the landing strip, wasn't it? So that's actually good to know. So that's already a... Now I'm curious what happened there before. Or is that always going to say it's replacing nothing? Got a bunch of tutorial stuff. Negative 277. Now that was the first thing. Huh. So the floor placements always say... Interestingly enough, these are regular placements that are saying 0 before it puts this thing there. So I'm not sure what that's about. Anyway, bear with boards. If this appears, it's replacing a floor tile. What we see is, as before, we see a 0 there on essentially the same time tick. So this is what I need to know which objects can result from a floor being picked up. Because this, I'm assuming, represents the right to the floor itself. But we also have these coincident timestamps at other places. So I'm not sure what that's about. Oh no, these are just same time step. Just happened to happen that way. But same location. A 0 precedes a floor removal object. So we're only going to see this. Well, I think this is only possible if the tile is empty. Because otherwise it'll try to hit the object. It's in the tile. So I probably don't need to worry about having this blank out an actual object. So we need to look for the appearance of a floor removal object. Now, this one's fine. But we're looking at something like this. Somebody could set boards on top of a wood floor. So we specifically need to see a floor removal object with an immediately preceding record of same timestamp or a fraction of a second difference to allow for whatever happening in the computer that puts a 0 there. So the other editor ended up over there. So now we have to go back to needing this file again. The only good thing about that is we can actually look at that bit of code from before. So require JSON. Object. So that was dealing with sizes. This is dealing with how do I want to structure this? Don't really need an index. Okay, so that claims it is done. So we got that stuff. I want to go grab that. No. Too many directory levels. One tech, public. These are kind of the same right now. So we've got you into family trees. Probably put that into the cache? No. Where were I loading you from? Cache oh, just cache objects. And then map. Static. Pretty. Okay. So we should be able to look at that. Error. Because I didn't save. All right, actor ID. Target ID. New target ID is really all we need. I don't know that I can really use. I guess if I did new target ID to old target ID, then I could say, well, is this a floor removal object? I don't think the targets, there's ever more than one type of floor that turns into a single type of object. Floor removal indexed by transition new target capital ID. Unexpected, yeah, too many brackets. Or not enough brackets, I guess. All right, so 2-6 is a road, is a road. So there's two different things that can happen from a road. And then, so we've got like wood, stone, with or without bear rug. All right, so what do we, let's see, get this down to a small file. Don't know if any floors were picked up in that file. So if the object is a floor removal object, and we're only considering things that are not themselves floors. Oh, the airport, that one airport transition or landing strip is going to be might be an issue here. And since it's not tagged as a floor, it didn't go into my transition map, I bet. Might need to have a special exception for that one. So we need to check for the existence of the floor removal object and for the immediately preceding log. Let's see, log doesn't exist there. We need to do our processing, which is just large enough to make that kind of annoying to get the indentation. I think I stopped doing the things that were kind of nexting out. Okay, if it is a floor, we're not concerned with any special removal of it. If floor removal of object and I'm going to need to know what this was. If it removes something, then we need to know if floors equals the thing it removes, and log dot previous dot object is 0, and previous, and previous dot x equals log dot x log dot y, and log dot ms offset the ones I've seen are equal. We'll probably want to come back and put an epsilon on that. Then we're just trusting that this previous line, or that these things will only work when there's no object here, so that previous line won't have really done any damage to the object layer. Oh, I'm pre-processing this. But to pre-process this, I'm actually going to want to turn this into a floor removal. So the other code doesn't have to do all this quite as much work. Oh, okay, fine. And then we cut you down to the small example, and we're going to want to say, did we ever detect this happening? Not in that file. Do we have reason to believe it should be in that file? It wasn't a very long arc. I wouldn't necessarily expect a bearskin rug. Six, 6, 8. Okay, and the others are going to be harder to find because you got things like boards, a little bit more likely. But I don't see the immediately preceding. That's tutorial stuff. Yeah, so this is just not a good example. That was the split one. I guess we just do everything and see if we find anything. Because I know that last one had a bunch of things that sure looked like they had floors pulled up. I'm not seeing any here. Okay then, I need a test case. see, I had this thing as a test case. Wait, did I open this? Not yet. Okay, and I need to find where we put down 264 doesn't sound right. 656. What? How did you get a bearskin rug with boards? Maybe I just picked a weird tile? That's a coordinate. Actually, gonna need end of line. And 656. Oh, because it's going to be F. This is actually a floor. So probably my other one. This one is actually tagged as a floor. All right, so what is going on here? Oh, I left a blank line in for one. So we're not seeing squit. Okay, 49, 49, 656, 668. Did I do this backwards? Removes object. 668 removes 656. And we've got a big long list of conditions. Floors tile X tile Y equals floor layer. Well, we've got all of our rights to the floor layer here. Well, I mean, what is it? Oh. It's tile coordinates. We need an actual Eh. I'm still not seeing my activation though. I guess that's what I really need. I do also want it here. But the placement still says floor. The only thing we do with removes is check it against there. And this is going to output stuff at that's the map. Some new timestamp. Okay, and that's the last thing that happened there in our, yep, floor 0. So we'll see if the map handles that. Does it handle that? Because we are treating that as a log of draw actions. Well, that will be the final result for that. Actually, that would just be like kind of delete the floor layer there. Can I just set that to nil, or do I have to like do something special to remove the key? Delete key. Because this is only keeping the most recent status here. For non-floors, I think I might still need to keep the object layer because, or that there's a 0 there because it may end up removing a base map object. Okay, so process everything. That's your base level. Do I have... Yeah. This does not normally need to be here. You don't want to process it. Oh, and we still have all of our debugging, which is quite verbose. Probably the log of just the things that actually got removed would be reasonable. All right, and now we play the game. Telemetry's output. Will Firefox load the updated data? All right, so I think up here, well, it might already cause a reload here. Actually, yep, it already reloaded it. So these all had bearskin rugs. They looked like they were removed. This whole road looked like it had been picked up. Yeah, you saw some of this stuff had been picked up, and you can see some other holes where there's the ads, and they stacked the boards. Things apparently weren't going so good in the final days. So that is one of the farthest details. That seemed pretty good. Who knows if any of those got pulled up. But that seems a little bit better. Okay, that's placements. Okay, trailing spaces. Attempt to check for remove floors. I guess for the time-based processing, I'm going to have to be doing that on the front end anyway. So this is really going to be a thing we have to re-deal with here. But for static final image, it's starting to look a little bit better. We're probably not going to do this whole log. So the question is that going to be big enough to cause us problems when we get down to it? And we need those larger scale levels of detail. And it'd especially be interesting when this arc ends and we see just how big that is. Because if it is a truly, if it ever ends up going back to like an infinite stream, then I probably am going to need some kind of keyframe setup. This is actually something I could add to my little sub filter there, since that well, I have to have the JSON file there anyway for the floor filtering. All right, we actually got a little bit of time left. Where is map? You actually had no changes. That was all pre-processing. All right, so animation is probably going to be a major project. building a table for pixel layer. So I might have to do some more filtering to get a list of permanent objects. Well, permanent blocks walking objects. Because like berry bushes, I mean, I can kind of accept those filtering out. It's really the roads and walls that are going to give you the shape of towns and things. But right now, and the fences to some extent, the walls aren't doing so good on the filtering condition because they get pretty thin. So somewhere up around here, we want to... I guess I could do that by widest dimension. I mean, that would do something. That would end up being crop rows. Of course, the fewer objects select, the fewer I have to color tag. And I guess I could attempt to do like some sort of image blur on it. Sprites could be a major project. Floor fade might not be too bad, but it's not a biggie either. So either investigating that glitch, which, if we turn this on and tell it to only do like 1 or 2 layers up here, we see it there, and then we see it flickering. So Leaflet's doing something wrong here, or we're reacting to events poorly. I wonder if... Is it like on and transparent? Is it display none? Is it being added and removed? That's a tile pane. Oh, I'm going to have to add like custom classes to these just so I know which is which. Class name, pixel. Map pane. Tile pane. Okay, that's probably biome, pixel. Oh, so the layer is added. But the tile container is empty. Yeah, so it is always rendering that and then going, oopsie! This is a kind of grid layer. This seems to be a problem with max zoom. Set max zoom. Actually, this is a case that doesn't consider max zoom. Check disabled layers. That's the layers control. This isn't directly represented here. Actually, would this be like an on move type of thing? Draggable. Is that what a map is, though? What does a grid layer have in it? Events, add, remove. This is probably like internal implementation. What happens on a map move? Can I? This isn't actually going to do a create tile, is it? I mean, it might have to update the tile set. Okay, so it had to create at least one tile. Pause on breakpoint. So when do we call create tile? Add tile. Well, okay, so it might be that. Looks like it is that. Add tile when a bunch of stuff happens. According to map bounds. So I didn't realize we were recreating quite so aggressively. This is actually kind of disturbing for the ones that have to fetch data. Now, there's only one add tile. It only gets called from here. Coordinates to load tiles. What is the conditions for valid tile? It's a bounds check. Okay. But why are we recreating tiles that already exist? Load tiles, active zoom level according to map bounds. Where is... Surely you keep your tiles around somewhere. To append tiles in one batch. You get container. create tile. Tile ready. Delay 1 frame. Otherwise, come back on tile ready. Do you even store your tiles? This dot tiles. No tiles to load. Abort loading. Remove tile. On add, reset the tiles. Update opacity. Prune tiles. We may have to do a little bit of debugging for this. Do I have better things I could be working on? That's going to be detailed. Graphics scaling might not be too bad. So in our sprite layer, we actually want to create this as get tile size. And then somewhere, well, actually it's me down here. We actually draw. So width and height might be appropriate. We've got tile size and we've got tile width and height. Ooh. Oh, we don't even use this. I mean, maybe that would be useful for comparing between these. So we're scaling by cell size. But I think our cell size is actually going to be a little bit off because the cell size we're drawing to is actually twice as big. Oh, right, we're debug stopped. So lose you. Oh, well, that didn't seem to work so well. Invalid lat long object. Okay. Also, we need to turn this back off. Invalid lat long object. So somehow my coordinates messed up there because we stretched things out. Create tile. So my width and height, what are we doing with those? Are we doing anything with those? I see dead code. I'm not doing any coordinate translation here. Which means we have to have done something weird with this. Okay, so maybe I don't want to do tile size. Oh, and I can't just multiply it. So it's actually this that we the canvas specifically. And then the point-wise, that's probably fine. Okay, so it still works. I guess, Question is, does it look any better? So we've got the very extreme version here. Of what those look like. I may also have to mess with some rendering options. I am taking map data from the game 1 Hour 1 Life and making a web map that can view it. One of the things that recently become available is actual object placement data, so I'm working on trying to make that look good. At the moment, I find that when these objects are shrunk down, they get very pixely and don't look so great. So I'm playing with super sampling in a larger canvas and then seeing if that would end up looking better. So we've got that. Which... Did I break something else? Okay, apparently I didn't have this before, maybe? No. Oh, because it was up here. No, that was crate tile. Put the class names on there. Oh, the cell size parameter. I also have to figure into this. However, I was trying to look at a very particular scale. And I guess even that, you kind of expect to look bad. Where was other things that seemed especially... I mean, that layer almost isn't too bad. I seem to remember like trees and things. Like, I know these objects are small. Yeah, some of the fences. I probably need to find out a better way to consistently scale this. All right, so we got fences that look pretty bad. They still look pretty bad. They might look a little bit different. So one of the things I've got is for all of my other grid-like layers, we've got these rendering options set on so that they don't blur the heck out like that. Which, I mean, is fine by itself. The problem you run into, let's see, you're going to be a zoom 24. Is that along the edges you get these things which really just stand out and look bad. So having turned that off, has that improved these any? Look a little bit fuzzier. And is that attributable to this? Might be. So since these are attributes I'm applying to things, I'm now going to have to like go through and deliberately apply this to a bunch of stuff. Right, because I originally had the biome layer images, which wanted that same crispness. It'd be so nice if well, I think there is, I played around with ways to exclude that, but I wasn't sure that that was working properly. All right, so that by itself should disable this for everything. And then every kind of layer biome image layer, which it wasn't always biomes, but it's mostly biomes. Okay, so tile layer, layer group. Oh, screenshot image layer. Actually, that's still going to have the tile edge issues. So you just kind of have to do it to everything. All right, so we're going to have our ages. That is the soft rendering of that. So I can define this for custom layers, but if I ever had occasion to override that, I'm also going to have to override it there. So we've got our biome layer. We've got our pixel layer. And then we're not going to apply it to our sprite layer. Arc Edge is just a kind of biome layer for the most part. Life data is a canvas that's generally going to re-render at local resolution, so it shouldn't be much affected. And then I had, these were really just for identification purposes. Okay, so that's still crisp. Screenshots. The edges might be less noticeable here. Because those are generally going to be at resolution. It was always just kind of a casualty of the other stuff. So then that will blur out a little bit to help things. This is to my server. So that seems to be fine. So I may have to reset this again. Which, I guess, reloading is just as easy. Into my test setup. That actually might help the transitions a little bit too. Because it's got the detail there. So that's not going to be actually useful at the final level. I could probably put in some sort of check for that. Oh, that might help the rendering of small objects too. Oh, no, I went the wrong way. You can tell something's there. You can't tell what it is. Oh, this has effects across the board. It is generally more readable than it used to be. Yeah, so I mean, things still look bad when shrunk, but I feel like it doesn't look as bad. All right, can I reduce that to a parameter? I'm going to call that one zoom layer because we have to do it in some zoom math. Which means we're going to need to play with some of that. There's going to be a scale. And we went to 23. So chords.z minus 24. I don't imagine that going any layers more than that is going to be very helpful. Oh, superscale 2. And we broke everything. Okay, I've got a bunch of 2s. That's what we expect. So that only leaves... Oh, maybe I did superscale... down here. I got off of this somehow. Here's the fetch. Draw tile. Yep. Arr? Okay, so first of all, this is apparently not equivalent to doing 23. Because part of the problem here is I changed my canvas dimensions there, and if I'm not doing equivalent changes here, we've got problems. So this is probably a parenthesis issue. And I guess I could put this in as a zoom value. Super scale again. Then I have to back calculate the zoom factor. All right. So now, in theory, we can say 0 to put it back where it was. The negatives, no doubt, would be bizarre. Well, it's got the blur all right. And this is probably just excessive. Now, this is technically a waste at the top end. But for that, I would have to be watching when I got to zoom 31 and limit and just make this different. So it might not be worth the complexity of that. So that improves things a bit. And did I leave this in the proper setting? Okay. Oh, what can we say about that? That probably could be related to super sample. Things certainly look better with that on. And you kind of want to see these big outlines of things at this level. It's just a lot more drawing when you're zoomed out. But some of those objects do seem to disappear sooner than you want. Okay, that's not terrible. Probably disappears a little bit sooner. That's 25. And I still need to work on some zoom level. Well, I guess what I really need is like the 24, 25 to be the block layer with identified walls and roads and things. Oh, this had gone to 2. So yeah, that's making it a little bit more liberal. I'm just cleaning up junk. Render sprites at res. Okay, and probably not going to have anything. Like, this is easy to do. Hooking up the UI for it is actually going to be the challenge there. So that may have to wait, so we need another little thing to do. It's also kind of getting towards lunchtime, and we're kind of a place to wrap up. So I think that leaves us with a settled data format. It's going to be manual upload for a little bit. So I'm going to have to do some cleanup in terms of not having this be the default view. And there's still the open question of what should be the default view. And maybe see if I can get something published. But that's going to be it for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks to TJ for bringing some friends. This is about when I tend to stream. I guess, yeah, sometimes I go later, sometimes I don't. Let's see. I see. Somebody working on a Twitch integrated game. Okay. Thought I saw an away screen there for a second. So if you're looking for a place cool to hang out, Zerator's working on a Twitch integrated idle game. I've done some stuff with Twitch API, not any direct like gamified things. If you're looking for someplace cool to hang out, that's someplace cool to hang out. Thanks for hanging out with me. Goodbye, and until next time.